Okay, and all right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I think we're good. Alhamdulillah, we are live on YouTube and we're broadcasting on the Saturday Night Halaqa YouTube channel itself. We're also on Zoom and on Instagram today. So hopefully everybody is able to hear us and see us as well. And if there are any problem in the broadcast or the quality of audio or video, please let us know as soon as possible. All right. Otherwise, we're gonna start. And today, inshallah, what we have for you is actually a beautiful story. And I just realized before the halaqah today, I realized that I never done this story before. So it should be exciting for both of us, inshallah, for me and for all of you, inshallah, okay? And the story, so I think if you were attending SNH maybe 2 years ago, we did a lot around the story of Musa, alayhi salam. And if you go back to the recording of those halaqas, you're going to find, a series of talks about Musa, alayhi salam. And in fact, we started early in his life, and we covered quite a bit. But the story of today is actually at the very end, at least as far as we know about Musa alayhi salam. It is at the very end of his life, okay? And it is actually found in the Quran. That story is found in the Quran, and it is in Surat Al-Ma'idah if you want to. And I always advise everybody to, open the copy of the Quran and try and follow. So this would be in Surat Al-Ma'idah, and these are verses 20 and on, like 20 up till 26, I believe. And I have an old copy of the Quran, so the verse number might be off a little bit, but hopefully it's okay. You can find it, inshallah. Okay, so this is basically after Musa and his people were saved from the Pharaoh. So they crossed the Red Sea. We know the story. It's a very well-known story, okay? And now they're kind of in between, right? And they're asked to go into Palestine, what we know today as Palestine. So this is basically the setting of the story today, all right? And as I said, this is not a very well-known story, even like in Muslim lectures, you may not find it as cited as other stories. And it's only mentioned once in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, and this is basically Surah number 4. So you have Fatiha, you have Baqarah, Al-Imran, An-Nisa, Al-Ma'idah, Surah number 5. And it is starting verses 20 up to like, 27. So like 7 verses or so, okay? I'm gonna recite, the Arabic, so you're familiar with it. And we're gonna focus on certain words, right? And we'll also talk about the lessons we can learn from the story. So inshallah, it should be very interesting. And there's actually, at the end, we're going to talk about a very important lesson that is relevant to all of us today. All right? So let's get started. So initially it says, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ. And remember when Moses in English, when Musa told his people. So again, remember, these are the people who were saved from Egypt, who ended up on the other side of the Red Sea, okay? So remember when Musa told his people, "O my people, اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم." Remember the blessing, the bounty of Allah upon you, the bounty of God upon you. Now, obviously, they had many bounties, but one of the greatest bounties that happened recently was the fact that they were saved from the Pharaoh and his army. Right? They were about to be wiped out. They were about to be finished. And then the miracle happened, this miracle that hasn't happened to anyone before like that, right? The splitting of the Red Sea, and the fact they were able to cross the Red Sea, and the fact that their enemies were finished, right? But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions other bounties. So he said, إِذْ جَعَلَ فِيكُمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ. So one of the bounties is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made from the children of Israel many prophets. So he said, he made from you prophets, وَجَعَلَكُمْ مُلُوكًا, and he also made amongst you kings, right? And this is a phenomena that hasn't happened much in history, except among the children of Israel, the fact that they had both kings and prophets. Like you can have the same person being a king and a prophet. So he's like a king prophet, okay? وَأَتَاكُمْ مَا لَمْ يُؤْتِ أَحَدًا مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. He has given you what he has not given anyone before you. So obviously they were favored in that sense. They were favored in this world, at least, right? They were given certain bounties, certain blessings that other people, other cultures, other civilizations did not have. All right? So now, as a result, there is a demand, there's a requirement from them. Usually when you have a bounty, when you have a blessing, and especially if that blessing is special, is something that you only have and no one has, there's also a responsibility that comes from it as well, right? So this is what's going to come next. So it says, يا قومي ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة. Okay, يا قوم ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم ولا ترتدوا على أدباركم فتنقلبوا خاسرين. So it said, O people, so this is still Musa speaking. He said, O people, or O my people, enter the sacred land, enter the holy land. So here, obviously, this is talking about the holy land of what we call in Arabic Al-Quds, or in English, Jerusalem, right? This is the holy city that is holy to many faith traditions, to many religions. And the Quran refers to it as holy or sacred in different places. In Surat Al-Isra, for example, in the beginning of Surat Al-Isra, which is in the middle of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, right? The further mosque. And then he said, الَّذِي بَارَكْنَا حَوْلَهُ. That mosque, which is, again, today is in Jerusalem, right? It says, الَّذِي بَارَكْنَا حَوْلَهُ, the one mosque that we have blessed the area around it. We have put barakah, we have put blessing around that masjid. So the area surrounding Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is a blessed land. It's a blessed place. And here, Musa is asking his people, okay? Musa is asking his people to enter this sacred place, this sacred land, Al-Ard Al-Muqaddasa. التي كتب الله لكم. The one that Allah has written for you. Now, this should not be misunderstood. It doesn't mean that that this was written for them forever. This is not something that was written for the children of Israel until the Day of Judgment. This is a misunderstanding. Here it means that this is the land that Allah has written that you enter. Okay? So this is more like a demand from God. It's not an entitlement, it's a demand. It means that Allah has written that you enter it, meaning Allah has prescribed, has made it required for you to enter. All right? So, and as a result, you either obey God and you enter it and now you fulfill the command, right? It's like a command, right? Or you fail to fulfill that command. All right? So that is the meaning of right, because the word right in Arabic, it could mean a prescription that, or a demand or a command, right? So this is basically a land that God commanded you to enter in that time, in that particular time, not forever, not 1,000 or 2,000 years from that time. So he said, وَلَا تَرْتَدُّوا عَلَى أَدْبَارِكُمْ فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ. Do not go back. Okay? Now, some scholars have said here that here it means you do not go back to Egypt. Like, because now you're facing a challenge, you have to enter a new land and you may face an enemy. Don't change your mind. Don't decide to return to where you came from. Don't decide to return to Egypt, where you came from. This is something you already done. This is you already crossed the Red Sea. It's a point of no return. That's essentially what it means here. So this is now you are at a point of no return. So don't you even think about going back to Egypt. وَلَا تَرْتَدُّوا عَلَى أَدْبَارِكُمْ فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ. And if you think about that, if you do that, then you're going to be losing. You're going to be a loser if you do that. And this is true in life. I mean, many times in life, we cross a particular challenge, we cross a point or cross a bridge, a particular bridge. We succeed, over a challenge. We accomplish a particular thing. A lot of people want to live off of that success forever, and that is not true. You have to be able now, the fact that you accomplished something, you have to be able to get beyond that success and not keep, returning to that success over and over again. And every minute, every occasion, you're going to remind the people of your success. No one cares. That success is over. Now you have to think of the challenge ahead of you. And this is essentially what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking the children of Israel in this particular case. So he's saying, وَلَا تَرْتَدُّوا عَلَى أَدْبَارِكُمْ فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ. The definition, again, listen carefully, the definition of failure is to be stuck at a success of the past. Great, you made a great accomplishment, you were able to cross the Red Sea, that was a great success, but that success is over. And it's not going to help you now. Now you have a new challenge. So you have to pay attention. You have to focus on the new challenge. And again, like I said, this is a great lesson that we all can learn from life. We see a lot of people being stuck at the previous success or a success of the past. We should not do that. Now the answer came from the people of Musa. So the people of Musa said, okay, great, but there's a problem here. What is the problem? They said, قالوا يا موسى إن فيها قوما جبارين. They said, oh Musa, this land you're telling us to go in has these mighty people. قوما جبارين. Mighty people, and some people might translate this as the giants, al-Amaliqa in Arabic, right? It could be, I don't know if it is, historically correct. I mean, some people say it's like, it's not here in the Quran, it's just maybe, a story. It says that that land was inhabited by the giants. All right. Here in the Quran, it doesn't say giants. It just said mighty people. So people of power, so the enemy was not an easy one. It's a mighty enemy, right? It's a mighty challenge. So they have to overcome this mighty challenge. قوما جبارين. وإنا لن ندخلها حتى يخرجوا منها. We're not going to enter the city of Jerusalem, unless they go out of it. فإن يخرجوا منها فإنا داخلون. As soon as they leave it, we will enter. Now, let us think about this for a minute here. Obviously, these people inside of the city, let us think about these people for a minute. Those people, those giants, or those mighty people, they're not just going to exit the city. They're not going to leave the city. So what are they asking of Musa? The people of Musa, what are they asking from their prophet? By saying, we're not gonna enter until they leave, and only when they leave we will enter the city. What exactly are they asking from Musa alayhi salam? It looks like they're expecting a miracle. Essentially, they're saying, only if a miracle happens we will enter the city of Jerusalem. All right? And obviously they're saying, we are not going to listen. This command you gave us is just too hard to obey. So we're not going to enter the city because we heard, these people are in the city and we're not going to risk our lives. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to, obey the command. Simple as that. Now, it seems like there are two people that were people of wisdom, right? And they were, listening to the conversation and what happened. Seems like there is some conversation going on here. So inshallah, I will answer those at the time of the Q&A because I'm not able to see all of the comments, but I will inshallah address those at the end. All right? Okay. So there are two people, and the scholars of tafsir, they said random people that Allah did not tell us about. So those people, we don't know, who they are. All right? So these two people, and the description in the Quran says they fear God, they fear Allah. That's the only description we're given about those two people. So قال رجلان من الذين يخافون أنعم الله عليهما. But Allah has bestowed some blessing upon them. So they had some special bounty from God. These two people had some special bounty from God. Now, what is that special bounty? Scholars of Quran say here that basically, in this particular case, the bounty that the Quran is talking about is the fact that they were guided to the right answer. They were guided to the right option in this particular situation. All right? So that's their advice to their people. They said, "Udkhulu alayhim al-bab." All you have to do, they said, just open the door. And this is really important, by the way. A lot of times in life, we are faced with particular circumstances. We're faced with particular challenges. And that challenge seems immense. I mean, that challenge seems impossible. Like, it's overwhelming. I cannot, face this challenge. It's just too much for me. I'm just a small, weak person. I'm just one person, and I'm weak, and I'm not able. I don't think I can take on this challenge. And the answer that came here was, well, don't think of a challenge as a whole, because yes, when you think of it as a whole, it becomes so hard to overcome. And you become defeated psychologically, you become defeated mentally even before you start. So the way around that is to take it one step at a time. And that is the advice of these two people that we don't know their names, right? But they were given guidance from Allah. They were given guidance from God. And they told their people, don't think about overcoming the whole city now. Don't think about fighting those giants. Rather think about obeying God. I mean, God is telling you, enter the city. He didn't even tell you, fight the enemy even, right? So how about just doing that? And don't think too much about it. Don't overthink it. Don't over-engineer it, as we say today. Just think about the immediate command. Take the first step. Just take the first step. And that step is open the door. You don't know what's behind that door. That's really crucial in life. And not only that, they said, فَإِذَا دَخَلْتُمُوهُ فَإِنَّكُمْ غَالِبُونَ. What you're going to see, as soon as you open the door, you're going to win the battle. You will become the conquerors. فَإِذَا دَخَلْتُمُوهُ فَإِنَّكُمْ غَالِبُونَ. As soon as you open the door, you're going to become successors. You're going to be you're going to succeed. You're going to succeed in your mission. You're going to succeed in your mission. And you're going to conquer that city. You're going to defeat your enemy. فَإِذَا دَخَلْتُمُوهُ فَإِنَّكُمْ غَالِبُونَ. All right? So now the ball is back in the court of the people, right? What are they going to do now? They heard the answer. And not only that, there's also something important here. And this has to come with and has to accompany any action you do, any step you do. And that is tawakkul. That is to rely on God. Because you might say, well, come on, this is not true. It's not just opening the door. It's much more than that. But this is where you have to trust in God. You have to trust in Allah. So many times in life, you are on a long path. You are on a long journey. And you know that very well. You know, this is a journey of 1,000 miles, right? And you're taking the first step. But you know what many people say? Well, okay, I can take the first step. I know that's not a problem. I know that I can do that. But the problem is, I'm not able to see the next step and the one after and the one after. And what if those steps are hard? And you start asking all these what if questions, right? I'm only able to see step number 2. I cannot see step number 3. I cannot see step number 4 or 5 or 6 or 10. And I'm scared because I don't know what's going to come up. I don't know what kind of surprises are going to arise, right? I don't know that, right? And this is exactly where you need tawakkul. This is exactly where you need trust in Allah. Okay? Trust does not mean that you make a blind step, right? It does not mean that you don't think or you don't plan or you don't use your mind or intellect. Trust means that you're going to take the first step and you can step, but you trust that the step that comes after is going to be possible. You trust that once you step or you make the second step, you will see the third one. That is the meaning of trust. Again, let me repeat. There was a bit of a noise here. Hopefully everybody can mute so you can listen. Trust, it does not mean that you make a blind step. Trust in Allah means that you make the step, you see the step in front of you, but you know that that step that's going to come after will show itself in time. You may not see it right now, and you're scared. You're not sure. You're not certain that that step will come. But this is where you come. You rely on Allah, and that's where the trust comes in. Okay, so I hope you see that point. Imagine. So I want you to imagine this long path with many steps. Maybe let's imagine, for example, that maybe you're stepping in a pond of water. So there's a big pond of water, and you have these steps. And in order not to drown, you have to step on those steps. You cannot step outside of those steps. Okay, but it's kind of dark, and you only have enough light to see the immediate step. So you cannot see 2 steps or 5 steps ahead of you. You only can see the step right in front of you. And now you have trust issues, as we say. You have what? You have trust issues because you're thinking, well, fine, I can see the step in front of me, but what if there's not another step? What if I cannot see the step after? This is where you need trust in Allah. Okay? Just take the first step, have full trust in Allah, and the next step will show in time. A lot of people will say, I'm not going to take the journey if I don't see everything, if I don't see the whole path. And that is wrong, because in life, most of the time, you're not going to see all the way through. It's just not possible. This is not what life is. So you're going to have that trust in order to make that journey. All right? And that's really, really essential in life. And this is what we see here happening. What we see transpiring, the story here is exactly that. So they said, and have trust in Allah, because only the people who have a trust are the faithful one. I mean, if you're going to have faith in order to have trust, and this is a longer topic, that you cannot have true trust in Allah unless you have faith in Allah. So trust, in a way, is a manifestation of your belief, of your faith in God. So they go hand in hand. Now came the response. And this is the nature of the human being. This is not just about the children of Israel. This is the nature of the human. And in fact, it is true about the majority of people. So what they said to Musa in response, they said, إِنَّا لَن نَدْخُلَهَا أَبَدًا مَا دَامُوا فِيهَا. We will never enter the city as long as those people are in the city. As long as those giants inhabit the city, we're not going to enter the city. Don't even think about it. This is like a huge risk. This is an impossible challenge. And no matter what you tell us, you can tell us all you want about the first step and the second step. You can tell us about entering the door, opening the door, and winning after opening the door. You can say all of that's not going to convince us. It's not going to change our mind. We have made up our mind. This is an impossible task, and we do it. Now, this kind of, we can say this is like internal talk that happens to many of us, the majority of us. Anytime we're faced with a difficult task, a difficult mission, this is exactly the kind of talk that comes to your mind or that goes inside your mind. No matter what a positive thinking that you hear from people around you, no matter how much encouragement you hear from people around you, you have this internal voice, inner voice telling you, you cannot do it. This is just impossible. Come on. What are you thinking about, man? This is not possible. And this is what they're saying here. This is what they're telling Musa alayhi salam. All right? They're telling him, we will never ever enter the city as long as they are in the city. And it's not what you tell yourself. You tell yourself, I'm not going to do this until all the challenges are moved away, until the risk is zero. Now, when I know that the risk is zero, then I will do that, unless that enemy, that whatever enemy it is. Sometimes the enemy is not physical, right? So they said, unless you get rid of that enemy completely, then and only then we will enter the city. All right? And on top of that, they say, فَاذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ فَقَاتِلَ إِنَّهَا هُنَا قَاعِدُونَ. You and your Lord will go and fight. We're going to stay here. We're going to wait. If you win the war, we'll go in the city and enjoy the spoils of the war, if you will, right? And if you don't succeed, then at least our lives were spared because we waited outside the city. So that is the response they gave. You and your Lord will go and fight. We will wait here to see what the results are, what happens after the war. And we'll take advantage of this situation, whatever that is. Again, isn't that what we do in life? A lot of times, we're not willing to face a challenge, right? And we're going to say, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to just sit down and wait. Maybe we're going to lose the opportunity. I'm going to lose the opportunity, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to sit down and wait and see what happens. And whatever happens, I'm going to try and take advantage of the situation. On that way, I did not risk anything. I did not risk any money, any time. I did not risk my life. I did not risk anything. And I'll see how I can take advantage of the situation at the end of the day, right? This is actually a position that many of us do in life. We retreat. We don't want to take the risk. We want someone else to take the risk. And then when it is time to, like we say, distribute the spoils, let's see if we can get any of that. So basically, I want to have gain without any pain, right? I don't want any pain. I just want the gain. That's exactly the attitude that they have here. All right. So now the response of Moses, he said, قَالَ رَبِّي إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ إِلَّا نَفْسِي وَأَخِي. He said, I tried my best. I tried to convince my people. and they're not willing to respond. They're not willing to obey the command. So what can I do? Well, all I can do is I only have I only have control over myself and my brother. And this is such a great attitude. And you don't find this attitude among leaders today. Leaders today will say, well, I'm a tyrant, I'm a dictator, right? And you all have to obey me. I don't care what you think. You're gonna have to obey me because I am the leader and I said my word. But look at Moses, look at Musa alayhi salam. He said, I tried my best, I tried to convince my people, and since they're not convinced, then my job has ended here. I'm not gonna force them to do it. Okay? So he said, all I have control over is myself and my brother. So separate between us and the disobedient people, the people of disobedience. All right? And now came the verdict from God. And this is basically the end of the story. All right? You see at the end here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that declaration, and he said, قَالَ فَإِنَّهَا مُحَرَّمَةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ 40 سَنَةً. He said, this land shall be forbidden on them for 40 years. So this is a punishment at the end. The punishment is you're going to be deprived from the good of that land. The blessing of that land. You're not going to be able to go in there. You're not going to be able to go in that land because of your attitude, right? And at the end, you're going to be roaming around. You're going to go around the land, but you're not going to be able to enter that land. And that's what we refer to as the diaspora. A diaspora is basically a state where you're wandering around something, but you're not able to go in. You're not able to, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And again, that's a very common human phenomena. It's a human situation where in life you're deprived from a particular outcome. So you're not able to enjoy the fruits of something. And you stand outside that garden, for example. You stand outside that, whatever it is. It could be a garden. Actually, is a good analogy. Is a good example. So you're standing outside that garden. You see it. You see how beautiful it is, but you're not able to enjoy it. You're not able to go inside of it. And that in and of itself is a punishment. All right. So he said you're going to be wandering in the land. You're going to be wandering around, but you're not going to be able to get inside that city. So that is the story. And again, if we continue with that analogy, in life, if you're not willing to take the risk and you're not willing to face your fears, then what's going to happen, the kind of punishment you suffer from at the end is not that you're going to, it's not the physical punishment necessarily, but it's going to be more like a mental torment. Because what's going to happen, you're not going to be able to succeed in life. You're not going to be able to attain your goal. And you're going to be sitting around, maybe watching other people enjoy, the fruits of their labor, but you're going to be deprived from that. And what's going to happen, you're going to become an eyewitness to that success, which is even more taunting. The fact that you see other people succeeding because they were able to take the risk, they were able to, to take that risk in life, but you did not, and you're going to be wandering in your life. So you're going to be basically going in circles, right? You're going to be beating around the bush, as we say, but you're not going to be able to accomplish your goal. So if you think deeply about the story, it has lots and lots of meaning, a lot of significance. And in fact, it goes into the heart of one of life's mightiest challenges, which is when we're faced by a particular, let's call it a mighty challenge. Just like here, we have a mighty enemy, Al-Jababira, right? These giants or these mighty enemies. Likewise in life, you're going to be faced by some giant issues, a mighty challenge. And people will have different reactions to that. So some people, maybe few people, will be willing to take the challenge, right? And to do that, as we saw in the story, you need the trust in Allah. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be something way beyond your power, way beyond your strength, way beyond your preparation level. No, it's more about the psychological issue there. Just a minute. I think we lost people on Zoom, so I'm going to try and go back to the meeting. Okay, just give me a second here. And I'm going to have to, maybe I'm going to have to leave Instagram and I'll come back, inshallah. Just give me a second. Just one more minute, inshallah. Okay. We're back on Zoom, so let me see here if I can go back on to Instagram as well. Inshallah, we're back, I think, in all of them. And I apologize for this little technical issue, and it's happening almost every time because Zoom has a 40-minute limit, and we don't have the pro version, I guess. So this is why we have to do that every time. Okay, so inshallah, we're gonna come to close the story. Inshallah, then we'll talk. We'll have the conversation as usual. If you have any comments or questions, inshallah, you can do that. So let me, inshallah, maybe summarize the story and see how it is relevant to us today. So this is again the story of Musa alayhi salam and his people. And like I said, this is toward the end of Musa's life. In fact, we don't know what happens to Musa after this. And it is said that Musa dies in Diaspora, and he was never able to go into the Holy Land. So he dies outside of the Holy Land. So we see that this punishment is collective. It came upon all of the children of Israel. But this is basically the last account of Musa alayhi salam in the Quran. This is the last thing we know about him. The fact that after they crossed the Red Sea and they were faced with this challenge of entering the holy city, and the fact that the holy city was inhabited by these mighty people, the people of Musa refused to go in, and as a result, they ended up wandering for 40 years around the city. Now, again, what we see, like the lessons we can learn here, remember in life, you're going to be faced by mighty challenges, right? And this is a mighty challenge. I mean, to enter a city where there is a strong enemy behind the city, right? Or behind the walls of the city is not an easy task. No one is saying it's an easy task. In fact, it is a really hard task. But life will present to you at least few times in your life, you'll be presented by a mighty challenge, right? And the Quran gives you an approach here. It's not saying that, okay, you go all the way in at once and you either make it or you die. This is not the idea here. You notice here in the Quran, there's a very important verse where it says, just open the door. And that's the lesson we have to learn here. That many times you don't take all the steps at once. Any mighty challenge you have in life is going to be made of many, many steps. And the reason people don't, take the first step is because they're afraid of the 100th step. And the Quran is telling you here, don't do that. Make the first step and have tawakkul on Allah. Make the first step and have trust in Allah. And once you do that, then Allah will make you see the next step, step number 2. And then the same thing happens, the same process. You cross the next, or you make the next step, right? And then Allah will make you see the 3rd step. And then you make the 3rd step, and then Allah will make you see the 4th step. Okay? Cool. You have to have this trust in Allah, because if you don't have trust, you're going to be worried crazy. Because you're going to be thinking, well, okay, I made the 2nd step and the 3rd step, but I'm worried, I'm terrified about step number 10 or step number 20. All right? And this is why it is super important to follow the exact instruction that you see here in these verses. And the instruction is, just open the door. Don't worry about what's behind, what is in room number 20. Just open the door and see what happens and deal with that situation as it happens. And then you worry about the next door or the next window or whatever it is, right? The next challenge, right? It also says, one of the morals of the story is, of course, you can say, I'm not going to take on that challenge at all. And it's too hard for me. It's impossible for me. You can do that. And that doesn't mean that you're going to die physically. Like if you don't take that challenge, it doesn't mean that it's the end of your life, right? It's not the end of you. But what's going to die within you is that spirit of adventure. And what's going to happen, you're going to end up tormenting yourself psychologically till the end of your life because you never took that step. So you're always gonna have this remorse in you that, whoa, subhanAllah, I should have taken that step. I should have been more courageous and taken that step. So that's the kind of punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here. The fact that they were roaming around the city, looking at the city, but not being able to go inside the city, this is like the worst kind of torture. And this is exactly how we choose to torture ourselves in this life. That we see that goal, that lofty goal we wanted to accomplish in life, but we did not. And we can see it. It's like it's upon us. It's within our sight, but we cannot go there. So, great story. You cannot talk enough about it. I hope I gave it justice a little bit. But now I want to stop a little bit and maybe give you time to share maybe your thoughts or your questions, if you have any questions. So I'll stop here, inshallah. If any part of the story was not clear, please ask. And I feel bad for the people who came late because you probably heard the end of the story and you're not sure what the story was about. So I don't know what to do about that, except that please come on time. And usually, it's the same time, so it's not, inshallah, hard to remember. It's always at 8 p.m. on Saturdays. Obviously, this is Arizona time, which is mountain time sometime of the year. Hopefully, you know what Arizona time is if you're not in Arizona. You can search it up. But we're always on at 8 p.m. Arizona time on Saturdays. All right? So now I'll stop and wait for your comments, questions, and if you're on, and we'll take them on Zoom, on YouTube, and on Instagram, inshallah. And on Zoom, you have the option of raising your hand if you want to speak, if you have any questions or comments. So we'll give you a few minutes, and if you don't, we'll call it the day, inshallah. Okay, I think we have Brother Ammar on raising hand. Please, Brother Ammar, you can go ahead, I think.
Should I type it or?
No, go ahead, speak it. If you want to speak it, you can, by all means, you can go ahead and speak it.
So you were talking about the story of after the Musa and the Jews left Egypt, and they wandered around the desert for a while. And again, you were talking about the part where they were going to the land that would become Israel, Palestine, right? And the Jews didn't want to go because they were a mighty people there, and they didn't want to fight them, right? So my question is, so in the Islamic version, when they eventually do take the land and they do set up the kingdom, does it happen the same way that it happens in the biblical version, where they kind of kill everyone in the land, or is it different?
Okay. Well, first of all, Ammar, I want to say welcome. We missed you, and I missed your tough questions. So I'm really glad that you're back. It feels like we lost you for a while. I don't know. Maybe I failed in conveying the information about the halaqah properly to all of the Saturday night halaqah. What do you call it? The people we've had for a long, long time, right? And it's maybe a failure on my part, because alhamdulillah, we used to have a halaqah in the masjid before COVID-19, right? And we had many people. And when we moved to the virtual halaqah, the online halaqah, I think we lost quite a bit of people, right? I also see Zakaria on Instagram. Salaam alaikum, Zakaria. So we lost some of these people. I think some of it is because it was a failure on my part to maybe propagate, the halaqah, in the right channels. But I hope we kind of regain these people bit by bit. Just a quick word about, I just remember, the good old days. And it seems like eternity, right? I mean, it's been a few months since COVID, but it feels much longer than that. Anyway, so back to your question. So is there a big difference between the Islamic version and the biblical version when it comes to what happens after those 40 years, after what we call the diaspora, or in Arabic you call it tih. Tih is basically when you're lost. So if you want to translate diaspora in Arabic, you could say tih. Remember this word tih. Tih means being lost. Okay. Now the Quran does not tell us about. So the Quran does not tell us about what happens after Musa alayhi salam. Okay. And it is not, even in the Sunnah of the Prophet, like in the Hadith, I don't believe there's an elaboration of what happens after the death of Musa. Now, in the Hadith, there is one Hadith that I believe is authentic, but I have to review it. It's been a while. I have not looked at it recently. But in that narration, it mentions that the student of Musa, so one of the close people to Musa alayhi salam, and if I'm not mistaken, it's probably Ghulam Musa, the boy that accompanied him on that journey we talked about in the past. That journey when he was going to find the teacher, right, Al-Khidr, and he took the fish with him. I think we covered that in one of the halaqas, right? So if you remember, Musa had a boy, a student with him, and that boy was carrying the fish. I believe it's the same person who later conquers Jerusalem. Okay, and this happens after the death of Moses and after the 40 years expired, right? But I don't think it tells us much about the details of the taking of the city, right? So we don't know how bloody it was. At least to my knowledge, I don't think we're told about the details. Certainly, it's not in the Quran, and if it is mentioned in the Sunnah, I don't think it is to those details. So I don't know. The answer to be honest. But inshallah, I can maybe look it up more, and maybe we can answer that in the future halaqas. But like I said, the account of the story after the death of Musa alayhi salam, is not elaborate. So even if it is in the hadith, it is not, it doesn't go into a lot of details. Okay, so we don't know the carnage. We don't know how many people were killed. We don't know that. Okay, so at least the Islamic account doesn't mention that in details. Okay, so we have some comments on Instagram. Let me make sure I did not miss anything here. So I was not aware of Saturday online night halaqa. Okay, alhamdulillah, now you know. And basically, like I said, I apologize on Instagram. We don't really advertise for it. But if you log in, if you happen to be on Instagram, or if you log in Saturdays at 8 p.m., inshallah, you should find us. Okay. Maybe I should do something about Instagram. Maybe posting a reminder perhaps would also be good. All right. And then I think there was a comment about the question from Ammar. Great question. So you got, you know, a like from Instagram. And glad you could join. I will try to catch it when I can, but my new schedule will make it. Does it get recorded? That's a good question. So it does get recorded. All right. Now, in the past, I used to record it on Facebook, but from now on, what I want to do is, and obviously we're going to lose the audience on Facebook, but I think what is more important is to have it available on YouTube, right? And so that's what I'm doing today. So inshallah, I'm broadcasting it live on YouTube, and hopefully that will be, that will record it, essentially, so that it is available for people to come later and watch it on YouTube. And I think all of you should know that we do have a dedicated YouTube channel for SNH, for Saturday Night Halaqa. And it's really easy to find, I think. You just go on YouTube and search up Saturday Night Halaqa. And the way you spell halaqa is H-A-L-A-Q-A. So it should be really simple. Again, H-A-L-A-Q-A. So Saturday Night Halaqa. Like that. So once you search it up, you should be able to find it. You can go ahead and subscribe to it. And then you can watch all of the halaqas that you missed and the current one as well. All right. And unfortunately, maybe for the last few halaqas, like the COVID halaqas, we call them, the ones after the ones we had at the masjid, all of those are not available on YouTube because I was doing the Facebook. But inshallah, from now on, they will be available. So hopefully that will work for you, inshallah. Okay, so hopefully that would answer the question. And now let me catch up on Zoom and see. So we have a question from Brother Saad as a continuation of Ammar's question. The 40-year exile, was it a temporary restriction as opposed to an eternal removal from the land? Well, no, I mean, the 40 years was 40 years. And after that, as we said, the children of Israel were able to go inside that region, inside the Holy Land, right? And there is a principle in the Quran that all of us should be aware of here. In the Quran, there is no, there's no emphasis on who is in a particular land. Like there's no emphasis on the ethnicity, for example. That's not the point. God does not give people a land because of who they are. He does not give land because of their color, their ethnicity, their race. It's very clear in the Quran that God, if it is going to be a divine conquest, let's call it, right? God gives land to the people of piety. And this is clearly stated in the Quran. For example, like that land is inherited by pious people. Okay, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say this land is given to the Arabs or to the Israelis or to other races. No, if God is going to give any land, He gives it to righteous people, whoever they might be. So this is really an important concept you find in the Quran mentioned a few times, that the land is given to the people who happen to be obedient to God at that time. So no one is given a land forever, okay? But if you happen to be obedient to God in that particular time, then you're the person, or you're the people, or you're the tribe, or whatever, that deserves that land at a particular time. And later, if you become disobedient or you change your ways, then someone else might deserve the land. Okay, so this is a divine principle when it comes to land in general. Okay, so no one should claim that they have a right to a land forever. At least the Islamic way of thinking is that that right is never eternal. You have it when you deserve it. Okay, and once you have to fulfill a particular criteria, and once you don't fulfill it anymore, then it's not yours. The land is not yours anymore. It goes to the one who is fulfilling that criteria. All right. Okay. So there's a question about whether this is the right channel, and we'll find out. Yes, it is. All right. Okay. So any other questions on Zoom? If you want to raise your hand again on Zoom, you want to speak up, please, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can also type it if you will. And let me make sure also I answered all the questions. Okay, there was also a comment about the fact that we continue doing the halakas virtually, and he's happy that we're doing that and we never stopped. So alhamdulillah, some people look forward for the for the halaqah, to attending the halaqah. I'm glad this is the case, and please, if you have any particular topic you want me to cover in the future, by all means, you can type it anytime during the halaqah. You can type it anywhere, whether on Instagram, YouTube, or on Zoom, and inshallah, I will address that halaqah in the future, inshallah. Okay. Any questions about the topic today? And I hope you can make it relevant, inshallah. Whatever I discussed today, I hope it is relevant. You found that to be relevant to you. There's a question: what is a good tafsir with authentic details on the story of Musa? With no Israeliyat, I think you meant Israeliyat. So basically, there's an element called Israeliyat in the exegesis or the commentaries of the Quran, right? Because some of the commentaries on the Quran were influenced by what we call Israeliyat, which means Israeli narrations. And these basically are narrations that came from Jewish sources. This is a long topic. Maybe we should have a topic about the different types of tafsir and the different type of commentary, and how some of them were, were rid of those types of narrations. One maybe that comes to mind is it's a relatively recent tafsir. It was written about 100 years ago, and that tafsir is written by a scholar by the name of Muhammad Rashid Rida. And this particular scholar, he was very very much opposed to these narrations, these Israeli narrations. All right. And he tried to rid his tafsir from those narrations. So he's one recent scholar, and his tafsir is readily available in Arabic. It's not translated, unfortunately, but it's readily available in Arabic. So if you speak Arabic, this is a great source. Like I said, it's one of the sources that does not have Israeliyat. So I hope that answers your question. Also, there's another, so there are two topics here. Men's hijab, interesting. All right. And then another topic is jinn, obviously, common topic, right? So this was suggested in the past. Yeah, there is a comment whether this is suitable for kids. I don't know. I prefer I think we lost people on Instagram. Just give me a second. Okay. My apology for the people on Instagram. Maybe they will rejoin us because there was a comment and I couldn't see it. So if they rejoin, inshallah, we'll see the comment. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. وإياكم جزاكم الله خير. So let me go back here. Any other questions before we end? I see one hand raised by Saad. So can we let Saad, inshallah, ask a question? Go ahead, please. Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so I guess two questions, I guess. The first question is, earlier when we were discussing the command to take over the city, I kind of was thinking maybe the reason they were not wanting to go in, they were trying to be lazy, or they're trying to circumvent the command of Allah by just saying, oh, why should we do it? We should have Allah do it. So could another lesson be that one should not be lazy when it comes to a command? One should not be lazy and take initiative in their actions as opposed to simply relying on Allah and just leaving it to Allah? That's the first question.
Okay. Well, let me take it maybe one at a time so I don't forget. Absolutely. So here we did not really talk about all the various reasons that could stop someone from taking a particular challenge. And maybe if I said, maybe I insinuated at least, or I kind of implied that it is usually fear, maybe, right? So fear is no doubt one of the reasons, but it's not the only reason. So you're absolutely right. It could be laziness in some cases, right? Now, it also could be understood, as you said, if you like read the verse over and over again, you sort of get that, right? You sort of get this idea that these people, the fact that they're asking Musa to go and do it themselves, to go